do it. All right. Guys, thank you everybody for joining us for this. This is the first in a 4-part webinar series that we're doing, all based around the 3 laws of trading that we put together in the 3 laws of trading playbook that we just released. So you guys can check that out if you haven't already, www.3ltplaybook.com. And the whole thing, Lucci and I talked a lot about how do we distill Lucci's, the takeaways and the most important integral concepts from Lucci's trading, like the wake-up calls that he finds himself giving to people over and over and over, and talking to them in person or in class. How do we like distill it down to the core fundamentals of this is really the most important stuff that has determined, Lucci's evolution as a trader, and that's what that is, the 3 laws right there. So that's what we created. And this is an opportunity, this webinar series is an opportunity for us to go more in depth into each one. And today is law number 1, and that law is learn to see, right? And the point, like we talk a lot in the playbook, we give this metaphor around the Matrix, right? I hope everybody's seen that movie. And we talk about, these moments of awakening that Neo, the main character in the Matrix, has when he wakes up and he can kind of see the system that he's been a part of, and he can see the system that he's struggling so hard against for his whole life. He can see what brings it together, what makes it happen, and that's his moment. That's the beginning of his escape from the system and his moments of freedom. And Lucci and I talked about this all the time, even back to the days when we were living on the loft together and stuff. Like the markets are not, it's not dissimilar, in terms of people's journeys, in the moments of awakening that they have when they see, all right, I can see what's bullshit now. I can see how I was getting manipulated by the system, and now I can see sort of through that and into what's really happening. And in this context, we're talking about tape reading, right? We're talking about moments, Lucci, that you had, the beginning of when you learned tape, when you actually, it all started to kind of come together and coalesce for you, and you could see this is actually I can see what's making moves in the market happen. So maybe we start with that, Lucci. Like, can you take us back to when you were first learning tape in prop, and how it was presented to you and how you started putting together cause and effect of this is what's actually creating a move in the market?
Yeah, man. First of all, thanks everybody for coming here. And I know, a lot of you guys come from a technical analysis background as well. Some of you guys have started to, dabble into tape a little bit, but maybe you don't know where to get started. That's how I felt when I started out. That's exactly how I felt when I started out. And then actually, or ironically enough, the level 2 actually looked like the Matrix to me. It actually looked like that's pretty much what it looked like, right? Because all you're seeing is numbers fly down the screen, at a very fast pace, and you're trying to figure out, well, what the hell is really going on here? And you got to remember, like, before there existed charts, this was all there was, right? And the reason why they call it the ticker tape was because you would have this giant machine that I'm not sure how they were able to get. I think it was done through radio frequencies. I'm not exactly sure, but your print would come out and the machine would write the last print basically, on a tape, and the tape would just slowly fall out of this machine, kind of like a fucking gumball machine. And this tape would just slowly just come out of this thing, and you would be sitting there reading it like, oh, somebody just bought 400 shares of this shit. Oh, somebody just bought, somebody just sold 2,000 shares of this shit. And that's what you would be, that's literally what you'd be doing. And that's how you would trade the market. And now the good tape readers would look at those prints and they'd be like, yo, somebody doesn't care about price. Meaning somebody is accumulating, let's say 100,000 shares, 200,000 shares, 400,000 shares, 500,000 shares. And they could tell by the aggressiveness. And you could tell by the way the prints hit the tape and by the price that they were actually filled at. So, for example, right? Let's we got this BYND up. We might as well talk about this. I know you guys love trading the Beyond Meat, and this thing has been very active recently. Today, was up about 20 points. Um, that's an example of demand. And when you go back to simple principles, economic principles of secondary markets, it's all based on supply and demand. That's it. And when you have a group of large buyers, let's say tons of retail buying, for example, your tape is going to look a certain way. And understanding what way that it looks like and understanding how to look at the tape and be like, yo, there's an increased amount of demand here and there's not enough supply to meet this demand. So why don't you guys answer the simple question? What happens when there's not enough supply to meet the demand? So go ahead and throw in the question box. I mean, for anybody that took microeconomics, this is a pretty simple question. And then don't get down on yourselves, of course, if you don't know the answer. But the simple answer is that price has to go higher. There's not enough supply, so price has to go higher. So that means anybody who wants to buy, let's say, a BYND at $208 can't buy it there anymore. There's too much demand for it. So what do they have to do? They got to buy at 208 and a half. They got to buy at 209. They got to buy at 210. They got to buy at 211. And if you keep seeing demand like that over however, whatever time period you're looking at, that's how stocks actually fucking move. That's how this shit actually works. So luckily enough, I started in a world where tape was the only focus. They never talked about charts. They never talked about any of this stuff, even though those things were readily available. I mean, I started trading in 2006. So charts and technical analysis was readily available. And before I went into this firm, this prop firm, I read a whole book on technical analysis. I read a whole book on, cup and handle formations and squiggly lines that you can put on your chart, Bollinger Bands and all this shit, the RSIs. I read about all that stuff. And then I go walk into this firm and they were like, nah, fuck that shit. look at bid and ask. That's all you're going to look at. You're just going to look at bid and ask. So the first time I was presented with it, I had no idea what was going on. I'm sitting there looking at it like, okay, you have 100 shares here and it went off here. Was this a buy order? Was this a sell order? What am I looking at here? And then when you look at the actual level 2 and you see orders on the level 2, I'm like, okay, well, what's the correlation here? What's really going on? So it took me, I want to say, a good part of 6 months to even figure out what the hell was going on. So it took me a while, Charlie, man. It definitely took me a while.
And part of that, I mean, because you were self-taught essentially, right? I mean, they were basically like, here's a bid and ask. This is all that matters. Look for it. Figure it out.
Right. They would kind of tell you, they would kind of talk a little bit about what the tape should look like if you have a trade. So for example, like, just that same example on the BYND, if you have a stock with increased demand and it's going higher, what are the things that you want to see on the tape? They would talk about stuff like that. But again, nothing really resonates with you until you actually sit there and do it. You know what I mean? So, as with anything here, that's where predominantly it was. And what I found too was I found a lot more edge in short-term trading as well as just overall sentiment analysis by using the tape. And I was able to kind of use those principles in my whole career, and kind of avoided technical analysis altogether thus far. So that was kind of my intro there, really.
Right. And I think, I mean, one of the things that when people come to the market, they're looking for a way for it all to make sense to them, right? They're looking for a way to simplify something that is otherwise very overwhelming, right? Like just learning how to trade in of itself is just a hugely, immensely difficult undertaking. Everyone in this webinar can attest to that, right? So so you start to get sold on ideas, right? The idea of a pattern, of a chart pattern, being something that if certain things are aligned, that creates a move. You start to like sell yourself on that truth, on that being the nature of the reality of the system that you're participating in. But when you step back and you actually ask yourself, what creates a move in the market? If you keep asking someone that question over and over, well, what creates the move? What creates the move? People who are talking about news, people are talking about, like, news is a good example. We can talk about that right now. People would say, oh, really, what created that move in whatever, Beyond Meat, whatever name of the day it is because some analyst came out and had this CNBC hit this headline. That's not the case. That's
right.
not true.
Right. So, this is difficult. Right. This is a difficult part for most traders who come into the mix to understand and even conceptualize, right? Because when you turn on CNBC, when you turn on even your trading platforms now, you guys all have news feeds that are pumped into them. Most of the time you're going to see, okay, X, Y, and Z is up 2% or 3% because of this news that was just disseminated, or maybe it was disseminated, whenever, and a lot of traders will be like, okay, that's why it was up. But in reality, there's people who are positioning way before that news even comes out, and by the time the news hits, they're sitting there selling off their position to you guys, to us, to the retail schmucks of the world, where we're sitting there looking at it like, oh, this stock should go up, and we end up paying a price that we end up, quote unquote here, no pun intended, we end up paying for. We end up paying way too high or way too low for these things, and then we end up just being in a place where things kind of shake out against us here. And that's all because of the forces of supply and demand. If you have, for example, in that same scenario, if all these larger players are buying ahead of an announcement, and they already know this announcement is coming, if they're selling off all that inventory, and you, retail trader, are the only one buying it up there, you're a retail trader with a piddly $10,000 E-Trade account. What are you going to hold the stock up with all your buying power and might? And again, I'm not shitting on you guys if you got 10 grand, but in this example here, are you going to be able to hold the stock up and push it higher with all the demand and power from your $10,000 account? Even if you had all the retail bandits come together, you can't buy as much as these guys do. You can't sell as much as these guys do. So with that in mind, it's like, if you're not looking for those signs and footprints of those larger players and what are the actual actions that they are taking, what are you really doing? And you're just not equipped with the right tools to move into a proper environment of trading, and you're just kind of you're going to be at you're going to be a step behind, basically.
Right. You're looking at the product of the system rather than the system of itself. This is the system itself, right? I mean, this is why we keep using this metaphor of the Matrix. It's like that moment, everyone who's seen that movie remembers that moment where he sees the code. He sees the code. He sees the agent, being comprised of the code. I mean, that you can't get any more granular than tape. There's nowhere for orders to hide, than tape, and everything is reflected in tape. So, there's news that comes out that is meaningless. You might think it would have an impact on the stock and that you should be trading around that. But if you look at the tape, nobody really gives a shit. Nobody important is really reacting to it.
Right. Now, I mean, there are obviously, exceptions to this rule, just like there are exceptions to everything. I mean, obviously, where anytime you come into earnings season and a company reports earnings that, let's say, is not where expectations are, or whatever the case is, you have some of these really outsized moves overnight or in the morning, because of things that just happen at random. I mean, Trump will say some random stuff, and the market will have to react to it. And these are the realities that we have before us. But if you're not a trader who understands, how these things move, why they move, and what's really the reason, the true reasoning behind what your charts look like, what your technicals are based off of, and that true reason is just pure buying and selling and actual tape transactions, the speed of these transactions, the weight of these transactions. Um, I will always firmly say that you are a step behind. You're missing the big tool and you're missing the big picture. The picture that finally Matrix or Neo understood once, boom, once he opened up his eyes and he was able to see everything. Like when I'm trading in the zone and I'm just reading tape, I'm just pulling the trigger left and right. I'm just hitting hotkeys left and right here because I'm just anticipating what I'm reading on this tape. So if I'm following some kind of a large buyer or if I'm following some kind of a large seller, if this person leans off the tape a little bit, or let's say kicks up again and decides to buy another huge amount of shares, I'm sitting there reading with them the whole entire way, trying to make my executions as best as possible. I'm trying to anticipate, future price movement, basically instead of reacting, hoping, which is all the things that most traders do.
Right. Yeah, and didn't mean to imply at all that not all news isn't really important. I mean, most news is important, but there is a lot of news events out there that people think, all right, I'm going to put on a huge position because this news just came out, and sometimes it's like actually nobody really gives a shit about what just happened, and you're trading blind. So I think that's a theme of sort of what we're talking about. What we always talk about with tape is like when you have that level of insight, you will always know what's happening. You will always know. You are never trading blind. And then it comes down to your capacity to execute, right? It comes down to your ability to the strategies that your ability to put them put them to use, and your self-awareness and your psychological capacity, which is part of the next webinar series that or the next webinars in the series that we're going to cover.
Exactly.
So
hence why we put together this playbook here for you guys to break it down step by step from a conceptual standpoint. And the first step being you gotta learn how to see. And once you learn how to see, you'll start getting the same amount of confidence that Neo is able to get, and was able to get. He wasn't as confident in what he was feeling, the whole time until finally, he broke his mind free, and boom, now he's dodging bullets, he's doing all kinds of this stuff, and he's ready to go. So once you learn how to see the market, then you're like, oh shit, this is what I've been waiting for. And then you're like, okay, now everything else just kind of falls into place. Execution, strategy, and all that kind of stuff just falls into place. And then the last piece of it, which is the hardest part, and we'll get to that, during this webinar series, is understanding yourself. And what the confidence is going to do, it's going to make you put up a lot of trades that allow you to take a look into who you are and yourself, basically, and how you tick and how you move. The emotions here that push your decision making. And then once you see yourself, then you can start peeling back the layers and being like, all right, I suck at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at this. And then you'll be able to zero in on what you really want, and then, sky's the limit from there.
And you'll have the tools, you'll have the capacity to do what you really want. You'll have the capacity, you'll have the tactical knowledge to be able to execute on things. But if you can be the Dalai Lama and have reached enlightenment, but if you have no idea what's actually causing, a move in the market, then you're not going to make any money. You might be really happy, so hats off to you, but you're not going to make any money.
Or be able to keep it.
Or be able to keep it, yeah. So I think sometimes we get like high level conceptual about things, and let's talk like just kind of tape 101, Lucci, like break down what the actual tape is. If you could just show real quick.
So for folks here, tuning in, your tape consists of order flow. So basically, like, who's out there just buying and selling, and the way that you visualize this is through your level 2 and through your time and sales. Now, it's going to be visually represented in your brokerage platforms a little bit differently, depending on what platform you have and how they go ahead and disseminate this information. But when you're taking a look at a level 2, this is basically your order book. This is basically your order book where tons of people are sitting around their computers just like you, or computer programs are putting in orders from server farms, and they're just throwing out all these limit orders onto a book. So consider this just a book of all the open orders that are out there. Now, this book doesn't show everything. There's what's called the lit pool, and there's what's called the dark pool. So inside of this market, there's a lot of games, and there's a lot of tricks, and there's a lot of things there's a lot of layers to this system that you really can pull back, and almost you can never find the end of it. You really can't, especially in this day and age with the advanced computer systems that we're looking at. All the connectivity between the data feeds out there. There's tons of layers that you can peel back when you're looking at the actual tape. So there's a lot of liquidity, and we call these orders liquidity because this is what the actual market looks like. Okay. Now, there's so many different participants in the market. I mean, you guys can think of yourselves. You can think of who's selling you the trade. You know what, Charlie, too? That's another huge concept that most traders, when they come to me, they never look at the market from that way. They never ask them, they never stop to ask themselves, well, who's on the other side of my trade? You know what I mean?
Right.
So if I'm going ahead and I'm buying this stock, well, I'm technically buying this from somebody who is selling it. And that's
Right.
one concept that, by the way, it took me months to figure out. I was like, okay, I'm buying this, but am I buying on the offer here? Am I buying on the bid? Like, what's happening in these transactions? I would sit there and look at a transaction, and I would be like, whoa, is this a buy or a fucking sell? I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out for months, bro. I couldn't figure it out for months. You were about to say something?
Well, I was going to say, like, in watching, and working with you, and especially when we were living in the loft, and like watching you just retape and do it every single day, you got to know everyone in the tape. It was like you were in the pit, basically, right? And everyone in the pit who used to trade certain securities back in the day when it was all in person, you knew certain guys. You knew this kind of market maker. You knew his personality. You knew when he was stressed. You could see the look on his face, like he was sweating a certain way. He would saying certain things. And you could see market makers moving names. They all had different personalities. You would see a certain buying, a buying program coming in. You could be like, I know this fucking algorithm. I know how this thing works. But you would see all these characters kind of start to take shape, and you would get to know certain tape. You know how things moved. And then that was an insight for me watching you, because you said, like, I know the intentions of these different actors in this game.
Exactly. So what Charlie is talking about right now is when you get to a level of confidence with tape. Remember, you are fighting. Remember, you are against everybody else here in this market. And when you trade from a chart perspective, you don't look at the market like that. You don't even realize that's what's really happening. When most people are sitting there trading charts or technicals or whatever, it's just pattern recognition at that point, which it's a valid strategy, but you still don't conceptualize what is really happening. So what Charlie is talking about is that, the market makers that I have to dance with every single day. And when I say dance, like, I'm obviously referring to trading. I have to trade with these same people or these same computer programs every single day. And just like your pattern recognition on a chart, you're going to see similar patterns grow, when you're looking at tape, especially when you're looking at options too. So there are designated market makers for every single stock that you trade. There are market makers for every single option that you decide to trade. Okay, and most of the volume does come from is concentrated within certain groups, the Citadels of the world, the Goldman Sachs of the world. All of these large firms, they have these market making arms where they all provide markets for the big stocks that we trade. But guess what? When large moves or large players come into the market, it's a battle between them and the market makers. Because remember, if I'm a market maker and BYND, for example, is about to move 40 points on me, and I have to provide liquidity for anybody who wants to buy calls, I know I'm going to get destroyed. I know I have to stomach a certain amount of loss, but I have to do it intelligently so that I can make it back at some point when the thing calms down. Okay. Or I can start making it very difficult for options players to get involved. So again, a lot of this a lot of this might sound, advanced. And again, that's why we have a specific master course for this, where we specifically talk about how these things work and how they all work together to provide the tape that you're looking at. But what Charlie is saying is that everybody has tendencies. You have a tendency, even the market maker and the computer program that you're playing against has a tendency as well. Okay. And your job as a trader, especially if you're gonna look at this from the tape perspective, if you're gonna trade any option out there, you got to know who you're up against. You got to know who's moving things around. You got to know who's controlling the action. Even from a general standpoint, is it buyers or sellers? Or it could be just a giant player that's coming in and buying 1 million shares in that stock. Or it could be panic out there on the street that some large seller decides to get out of a huge book, and then all of a sudden you get the whole retail world is like, what the hell is going on? And everybody's smacking market orders just to get the hell out of those things. You have to know what it looks like and what it feels like from that perspective. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by piping into these feeds here of a level 2 and your time and sales. Time and sales is going to be your transactions. So every single transaction that is done on any stock, on any option, has to be recorded and sent to the tape and sent to your time and sales. So this is a record of all the shit that's been bought and sold on any given day. Okay, so any trade that is made anywhere, even if it's on the floor off the exchanges, okay, it has to be reported right here. Okay, so you can't hide your shit. Okay, you might be able to hide liquidity, you might be able to hide stuff in a dark pool, but the print eventually comes out. The print comes out. So even if there's dark pools in between all this liquidity here, the print has to come out. You can still see, that there's some liquidity here in a dark pool. Okay, and again, for those folks who don't understand this, this is why we have the course here. This is an advanced way of looking at the market that people don't do anymore. People don't do anymore. Why? Because it's obviously much easier to look at a chart, to paint some lines around it, and to try to give some mathematical calculations to what the tape is. And
but we also, I mean, when you say people don't do it anymore, I mean, I feel like it's not taught often, but I still to this day, I mean, Luch, when you go into prop firms, when you talk to professional traders,
all professionals do this. All professional traders do this. Yeah. And they use technicals. They even use technicals against you guys because they know they know what levels you want to buy. Okay, it doesn't take a freaking rocket science to know exactly what levels you want to buy. If you go ahead and give me a name, a chart to look at, I can go ahead and tell you exactly where you would put your stops, exactly where you'd want to buy the stock, exactly where you'd want to short the stock. It's not rocket science. In fact, it's very easy for them to be looking for. Yeah, it's very easy for them to quantify. It's very easy for them to create programs around. It's very easy for them to create the perception and give you guys entries, exits, fake entries and exits for all of the trades that you want to make. It's very, very easy for them to manipulate the shit out of you guys. Because again, they know these levels where you want to be involved in. That's it.
Yeah, they know who they're trading against. They know the names that retail really likes. They see the news that retail is reading. They know when they're going up against other pros, and they know how to, adjust their positions and their orders, to accommodate that. And they know when they're going up against retail, and they know how to manipulate it. But that's one of the reasons why we talk about tape so much, because that's how you get around that. That's how you bypass that. That's how you level the playing field. And when you walk into any, pro prop environment right now, they're either automating a component of their analysis based on tape, or they're looking at tape. They're human beings looking at tape. But tape, level 2, time and sales is synonymous with trading for almost 95% of professional traders out there. It's not taught much publicly because honestly, it's intimidating people. It scares people, and that's one of the
It's
things
not
that we.
sexy. Yeah, it's not sexy. With the
Yeah,
age of the brokerages, with the age of exchanges who are for-profit mechanisms, remember, exchanges, a stock market exchange wasn't out there trying to make money. They were just facilitating executions. They were never trying to make money. Now the exchanges are all profit-making machines, which means their interests are not aligned at all with yours at all. All they care about is
they want
why
volume.
aren't you trading
Right.
on my motherfucking exchange? That's all they care about.
Right.
So they get into bed with ATS, with these different exchanges here, ARCAs, all these different ATSs, these actual routes. So anytime that your broker, they basically get into bed with your broker. So if you're at Interactive Brokers, if you're at Fidelity, if you're at E-Trade, especially if you're at Robinhood, there are deals between all of these companies, the exchanges that you trade on, the Arcas of the world, the NASDAQs of the world, the freaking Chicago exchange, the Boston exchange, all those exchanges are in bed with your brokers. So your brokers will create deals with these exchanges, and they'll be like, all right, when X, Y, and Z dumbass sends a market order in a fucking BYND, we're going to route that order to you. You're going to pay us for that order. And that's how the game is played. Nobody knows this shit either. Nobody even cares about it. But that's what's going on in the background. Now, if you know that, why would the brokerages want you to look at tape? Ask that question to yourself at all. Why would a broker want you to look at fucking tape? Granted, they give you access to it, but they know you don't use it. They got 6 million.
Yeah.
I think E-Trade has 6 million client accounts. How many of those people do you think actually look at a fucking level 2 and a time and sales? They don't,
The
they
E-Trade
want you
baby.
looking at the charts.
It's the E-Trade baby. Come on. They want you to think that it is so easy and safe to put your money out into the market and to push volume, right? Because that is what they want. They want volume.
That's it.
And
That's it.
the
They don't care
institutions that
about
drive the
you.
most volume.
They don't give a shit about you. So they come to these exchanges. They come there with their hands full, baby. They say, "Yo, I got 1 million orders here from these dumbasses that you can scrape, that you can do whatever you want with, and you can tell them you got them good executions and da 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 da, all this kind of stuff." But in reality, like, they are into pushing the technical analysis stuff because it's sexy. It brings out more dumbass traders. It brings out even more people who have no idea what the hell they were doing. One of my guys, actually, I shouldn't say, so he's an acquaintance, right? And he hit me up actually just today. He was like, "Yo, I'm starting to trade Forex, and they're teaching me about Fibonacci's, and they're teaching me about RSI's, and they're teaching me about all this stuff." And I'm listening to him, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, you don't even know what you're doing. you don't even know why you're doing it. You don't even know what you're doing. You just saw somebody online make $20,000 on a random Japanese yen to USD trade, and you just you're doing what exactly? What is it that you think you're doing? What is it that you think you know?" And I see this shit all the time, and that's the character of most traders. Whether you're trading Forex, whether you're trading futures, whether you're trading options, whether you're trading equities, it doesn't matter. What you actually know is fucking weak. It's weak. It's so weak. It is. You don't know shit, and the realization that you don't know shit is really what we're after. That's what we're after. That we're and again we're call us Morpheus. We're Morpheus here, and you
We like to
guys
call
are
ourselves more
different versions of Neo. You know what I mean? That's what we are. That's what we are.
I mean, and it is like, it's an uncomfortable message to put out there. Like, a lot of the playbook, the 3 laws of trading playbook it's not meant to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable because our job is not, we don't look at it as our job is to make you feel comfortable. We look at it as our job is to educate, to provide, you know, the best education we can and to give a wake-up call, right? I mean, the whole genesis of saying Lucci.com when Lucci started was because he was seeing all sorts of different types of manipulation and misinformation that was out there. And this is like 7, 8 years ago. And he was like, this is bullshit. No one's really talking about what actually happens. You know, CNBC, what I'm watching, what I'm seeing in the tape, and then what I'm seeing on CNBC are two completely different realities. And someone has to call that out. And that was the origin, and that's definitely the ethos that, you know, that we carry into what we're doing now. And that's what's baked into the playbook. That's what's in the steam room with, you know, with Jesus and, you know, all those guys that are in there. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Just to give them a little bit more, you know, just to give you guys a little bit more juice too, like it doesn't only mean, tape doesn't only mean, you know, for your equity, you know, like for example, if we're still looking at this BYND, I scrolled back to tape from 10 o'clock this morning. So you can see the stock was trading at around 208. Right now it's trading at 225. I think in the after hours, this thing is already up to 230 and change, this BYND. So like it's ongoing, it's continuous, you know, it never stops. Even with the futures overnight, there's tape there as well. All of this kind of fits together. What I just pulled up was a chart of an option. This is a weekly call, these 210 calls right off the open. We saw a lot of buying in this particular option. We saw a ton of buying come out in this particular option. And then they kept rolling. They kept buying 220s. They kept buying 225s. They kept buying all of this shit. You can see all the volume here on this particular options chain. So again, when you see that aggressiveness even on an option that is out of the money, the option is out of the money and it expires tomorrow. It expires tomorrow. And you got people dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars in this shit. That's another form of tape that we also look at. Remember, this is all just buyers and sellers. This option expires tomorrow. Granted, it's beyond me. It could do friggin' anything. So the expectation is very high. But there's a lot of things that we teach you as far as options pricing, as far as why the options are priced the way they are. All of this shit comes back to tape. All of it comes back to tape, and that's what we go ahead and impart. Okay, we're not going to sit here and give you what you can already find for yourself. I mean, let's put it that way. I mean, Charlie and I, we hate to talk shit about technicals because technicals still do provide a world and a framework with which you can understand the markets to some extent, and you can use them to base and build strategies off of. Okay. But what we do here is we give you the shit that you can't find. You're not going to be able, we give you the other tools here that you can't find, okay? If you guys want technical analysis, you can easily go on Google and you can find all that shit readily available in many different forms, variations, and all that kind of stuff. We present to you a market that you can look at with a different set of eyes that is going to give you a lot more confidence here in what you're seeing and what you're doing. That's kind of where we're at. And we pipe it all together through different means of tape, through options, through, you know, how to read bid and ask, you know, through understanding the market structure as well, the exchanges, the market makers. And I really do believe, Charlie, that we're one of the only people, we're one of the only groups that do it. That we're one of the only groups here to this day that do this.
I mean, especially teaching tape at the depth that you do, and then flow, you know, everything that Jesus does. I don't think there's anybody out there that does it. I mean, there are prop firms, yeah, where you can go and you can do it, but anymore the prop game is not what it used to be. It used to be you could find a prop firm, put down $5,000, go, they give you, you know, 100x buying power, and you know they would teach you some stuff. That
you
game
can't do
is
that shit anymore.
pretty much gone. Yeah, it's pretty much gone. So, but that is another thing. I think we can go, guys. We can start going the Q&A. If you have questions, drop them in here. I know you got a lot of them. I was talking to Tim, the guy from the Steam Room, who's a phenomenal trader, yesterday, and one of the things we were talking about. Shout out to Tim. He's in here right now. He's the man. You guys know him as option trader in the Steam Room. And one of the things we're talking about is like how intimidating some of the stuff can be. And like, no, some of what we're talking about is not as simple as looking for a head and shoulders pattern or just spotting support and resistance. It is more complicated than that. But Lucci will be the first one to tell you, even though he's a very smart man, he's not like fucking, I don't know, Copernicus. I don't know what what historical genius figure is, you know, you wanna call him name. Like, he's a human, man, and he put in the time and he learned this and he mastered it. Like, you can do this. This is within. It is, you can pull this off. It's not. Don't let, you know, the amount of numbers and whatever on the screen intimidate you. That's one of the reasons why we have the course. It breaks it down into a granular way where you can start, you know, building it up in step-by-step basis.
Right.
So,
It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. It takes the dedication, and it takes the effort. You know, there's plenty of people that come my way, and I know immediately when they get up in the chat rooms, I know immediately if they're going to last, if they're going to spend the time, if they're going to do the work, and you guys know those people as well. So, you know, if you guys are all here because you've been one of those people and or you still are one of those people, and you want the knowledge, you want the push to the next place, you want to know what that feeling is, and that feeling is this. That's exactly what this is. And it may take you longer than others. It took me literally a year to figure all this shit out and to actually figure out how to even make money. And then it took me another, about 3 or 4 years to understand who I was as a human being. Now, everybody's trajectory is different. I knew guys that were making money, boom, a month into it just because I don't know, they just had something over themselves that I never had. I could never figure out. And then I know other guys that, you know, it takes them somewhere in between. So everybody's learning curve is different because of how you take in the information and what you think you know. So the time it takes is literally all depending on how much we have to unlearn, how much you have to unlearn about yourself and about the market. So if you got a lot of shit to unlearn, it's going to take you longer. You want to know why? Because you're going to be fighting it. You're going to be fighting me the whole time. You're going to be, yeah, but, Lucci, this is this, and I heard this. Like, fuck all that. Fuck all that, and fuck what you heard. You are here for that reason, and you got to be able to let go. But it's difficult to do this because you're an egotistical motherfucker. I already know this.
and that is the topic of one number 3, which we
right.
will address.
We'll get to
not
that.
next week, but the week after that. But yeah, there's another 3 parts of this webinar series we're doing. We're doing another one Tuesday of next week. Then we'll do one with Thursday. Special guest Ronchero, who's in here right now, who's a guest educator on the course. He's going to go through everything that he teaches in the master course. And then the last one is the following Tuesday. We're doing on the psychology of things. Learn yourself. So we're going to go in the Q&A, guys. We don't have too much time left. We're going to go in the Q&A here. Luch, can you pull up the master course product on your
Sure,
page, or you can throw it around to me too. I can share it.
Sure.
Either one. So a couple questions in here about the master course right now. The master course is our flagship trading education experience, right? So it is Lucci teaching you every single thing that he knows and does in order to trade the way that he does. So it's tape reading, it's equities and options, pricing, it's here we go. Let me pull this up. Here we go. So yeah, this is the master course page here. It is basically everything that you need to know in order to take on the markets in an informed, eyes open capacity. So equities and options trading, flow trading, tape reading, the trading psychology is a huge element to it. Lucci goes into his options writing strategy. Ronchero, who is our guest educator, as we talked about, goes through talking about really how to trade, put on long-term positions and trade around them, you know, really nimbly, either day trading or swing trading around those to, you know, in more of an income generating capacity. We've got, yeah, I mean, it's not just, you know, I said earlier, I should correct myself. It's not just about how teaching you to do what Lucci does. It's teaching all the skill sets that Lucci has and then how to apply it to yourself. So one of the things that is really important about trading education is you can't just cookie cutter go take what someone else does and go and try and do it yourself. You have to take tactics and skill sets and then apply it to your own style, your own psychological makeup, your own account size, your own risk tolerance. And that's one of the things that we teach you how to do too. So the next live course starts August 12th. You get 12 live sessions with Lucci. They're taught in the evenings, 7:30, start on 7:30 Eastern, go until about 9:30. All of them are recorded. So you get to watch the recordings whenever you want. You get 3 sessions with Ranchero, who's the guest educator that we were just talking about. We'll have him on next week to go through what he teaches. You get 4 live tape reading sessions. You get to see everything that Lucci sees while he's reading tapes. He's analyzing it for you on the spot. And you get lifetime access. So you can come back as many times as you want. You can come to this session. You can come to the one after that, the one after that. Lucci's always teaching things in a different way, showing you how to do things differently based on what's going on in the market. So we have people coming back from, they bought 2 years ago and they're coming back. So you can get a really steep discount on this if you go through the playbook. So 3ltplaybook.com. Go through it. You should go through it anyways. It's completely free, whether you're interested in the course or not. Go through it. I think you'll learn a lot. And when you get to the end of that, you'll see the discount that we offer on the master course. Check it out. Highly recommend. Luke, nice. Did I leave anything else? If you want to go, want to do some Q&A here?
Yeah, let's do some Q&A here, man. We got a couple of cool questions here that we can definitely tackle here. Let's take Al Lee first. He's saying, how does reading the tape for equities compare to reading the tape for options? Is it still very significant on the equity side? So again, Al, all of it is important. You know what I mean? Like, all of it is important. So you're gonna get good. You're gonna get so good at reading tape that you're gonna be able to just look at tape of an option and you'll know exactly what the stock is doing. That's how good you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? So it's super important because you're gonna see shit that happens in the options tape that it's gonna clue into some shit that could happen on the equity side, or vice versa. You know what I mean? So it's all very important. What's happening in the futures market, everything is tied together, and everything is very important. So you got to figure out why it's all moving the way it is. That way you can you can stake your claim here and put your flag up here. Okay. What else we got here, Charlie? What else we got here?
Let me see.
Let's see. Rafi is saying, is what is taught in the master course applicable to all markets or others besides equities and options? Absolutely. So tape is very applicable to crypto, for example. So a lot of people trading crypto out there. And again, the foremost way to trade the new markets that have come up, it's almost breathed life back into technical analysis. So the new markets that have popped up, which is the crypto markets, it's almost allowed new people to sell the same information that has already been there for 30 fucking years. It's allowed new people to create businesses on selling technical analysis to people who want to trade a shitty fucking altcoin. You know what I mean? So, this is very applicable to everything. So any market that has a bid and ask, okay? And that means crypto, that means Forex, that means all of this stuff. But it not only means that, it means freaking tickets, it means sneakers, it means eBay, it means Amazon, it means all of this shit is bid and ask, supply and demand. That's what it is, okay? Now, the way we do teach it is definitely geared towards options and equities. But absolutely, you can apply these same principles to futures, Forex, crypto, whatever the hell it is you're trading.
And the psychology of it. I mean, that's one of the biggest. We do surveys. We always talk to people after they come out of the course. It's like, what had the biggest impact on you, right? What can we improve? And the top 2 of the top things that everyone always says is, one, tape. Just blows. Now I feel like I can see. Before I was trading blind. And so that blows their mind. But the second thing that people always mention is psychology. So it's how Lucci pushes you. I mean, you guys can see in the webinar here, he pushes you. He forces you to look at truths and realities that, like, you may not want to confront, you may not want to believe, but it is in your best interest in order to look at things as they are and deal with those circumstances, for what they are. Otherwise, it's a recipe for losing money. So the trading psychology of how Lucci helps you kind of develop yourself and develop skill sets that will help you sustain this psychologically and thrive psychologically, that's a huge element to it. And that is applicable to any market, equities, options, whatever.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's take a couple other ones. Yeah, we got what's the difference between level 3 and level 2 pricing, and also looking at an options price table. What do we got here?
It ain't a Trump hat. It ain't a Trump hat, you fools.
Oh, someone said it's a Trump hat. Yeah, not a Trump hat.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that or anything. Difference between level 3 and level 2 pricing.
Level 2 and level 3 pricing. Okay. You know, depending on who you get access to, level 3 to me is kind of like a scam, more or less, because it's just a way to get you with more fees, and you're not really seeing much more per se. So depending on who you're going through for the data, you know, and depending on your level of trading as well. I mean, if you have to ask me level 2 and level 3, stick to level 2 because, you know, and then get to level 3. Okay. So the more shit that you can do right now for yourself is not by buying everything and having access to everything. Right now, it's to zero in your focus, understand the concepts here, and then you can start adding in data streams here that can help you out. You can start adding in other forms of tape that can help you out, give you a little bit more color and things like that.
Yeah, and guys, that's another thing too, is tape seems really complex, but in a lot of ways, it simplifies everything. Because people, like sometimes people come into the classes and they're like, well, what platform should I be on? And like, how many screens? I need these like long monitors.
Yeah,
and they start like, focusing on all the wrong stuff. It's like, it's pretty simple, the stuff that you gotta learn to do this right. You don't need a lot of bells and whistles. You don't need fancy indicators. Like, you can do a lot with a little. So all right,
to add to that, I mean, I think there was another question here. Toast Salini has a question. If you know nothing, you guys let people know what platforms to use. Saying I have 2 years in the Sykes Challenge, love it over there. But once I saw your old presentation and the old DVDs, I wanted to get up with you. That was really old. I can't believe he still has that.
Those are
That's
like
hilarious,
7 years old, man.
So Salini, I mean, for you, I mean, again, like, you know, it depends on what you want to trade, how you want to trade. Of course, we have a whole section on platforms and things like that. But just as Charlie said, the grass, you know, everybody thinks the grass is greener somewhere else. Okay. That's a concept that, forget about trading. Like in your life, whatever you're doing right now, the grass is greener somewhere else. Okay. Whether you're talking about food, gym, life, what you could be doing for your career, women or your spouse, men, you know, what you could have for a relationship, friends, you know, the grass is always greener. Don't look at a monitor or a platform as your savior. It never is. It never will be. They all suck. They all do not change anything about yourself. You know what I'm saying? So if you suck and you got shitty emotions and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, a platform and a screen ain't gonna change none of that. Okay, so let's get that straight here and there. I've made, you know, 100 grand from my phone or my laptop just because I knew what I'm doing and I know what's going on. You know what I mean? So yes, we do talk about platforms. Yes, we do talk about all this stuff. You know, but don't look at it as the be all end all. Oh my God. You know, it all comes down to you. You know, how you want to put it to use. The spider options here is coming back. Do we use statistical calculations? We don't do any of that. And again, we look to teach you guys how everything is built, how everything is made, why stocks move the way they do. And then again, for further education, you guys are going to be so confident to the point where you know how the market works now. You can start moving in those directions where you can get more statistical calculations. You can get more, you know, data driven. You can get algos back there. You can start putting in some automation. You know, you'll get the confidence to go down these roads yourself. Okay, but the first thing you got to do, and the reason why you guys are here, is to rethink the way that you're looking at the market. That's what we do. We smack the shit out of you first. Okay, that's what we do.
Yeah, and you can apply. I mean, everyone comes out of the course and applies things differently. There's guys in the room who learn from Lucci, learn tape, learn flow options and stuff, and then they layer on, you know, their own indicators that they particularly like, or VWAP or RSI, whatever it is that for some reason it works for them, but they're always reconciling it and comparing tape. Tape is the foundation of what their analysis, and they layer those things on top of it. So no one's saying you can only use tape for the rest of your life, but it will serve as the foundation for your understanding of the markets and the motives of everyone involved. So
exactly.
Guys,
let's take one more, maybe. You want to take one more?
All right, one more. You got a Spanish lesson, so I'm not trying to stretch you too thin here, but.
Oh, no. So that's done. I think I have to schedule one or two more, but
all right, you're fluent now. All right.
So let's take what do you want to do? Let's take how is the master course different? I think Nathan's got a question here. How is the master course different from the options master class? So yeah, there is no difference, or we don't have that. Correct?
There's no options masterclass. I mean, that might be, maybe we still offer a master class. I mean, the master course covers options very thoroughly, but
yeah. So
no,
those are one of the same. I don't know where you're getting those two, but we have the master course engulfs everything, and you get access to everything too. Julian here is saying, is the free level 2 on TD Ameritrade or Fidelity the same as the level 2 you have to pay for? Yeah, the one that you get from Fidelity Active Trader, it's the same as IB. But Julian, again, the brokers here do everything a little bit differently, So Interactive Brokers makes you pay for every little thing that you want. So if you want data to a level 2, they make you pay a monthly fee for it. If you want X, Y, and Z, but remember how they make money. And again, this is what most of you guys, and again, I'm not assuming or singling you guys out, but this is just what we've seen thus far. What most retail trader doesn't know is how the brokers work, how they make money, so if they charge you 75 cents a contract for commissions and they don't give you any rebates back, well, then that's pretty fucked up. And most of you guys have no idea what a rebate is. You don't know what the maker-taker rule is. You don't know what any of these rules are when it comes to exchanges, when it comes to providing markets in options, in equities, when it comes to brokers making money for sending order flow. Nobody knows this shit, but that's their incentive. So they make money completely differently here, and it's useful information for you to understand how they make their money too, So
if you want to see a documentary that we may or may not be in, you can go to YouTube and look up the Wall Street Code, VPRO. That's the name of the production company that did it, VPRO. Just go to YouTube, look at it. It's getting older now. It's a couple years old, but that will kind of open your eyes to a lot of stuff.
That'll set you straight. That'll set you straight, definitely.
Mark, you're asking how many people are in the master class. There's a lot of people who join who can't attend all the live sessions, so they watch recordings. And they do it that way, and then they're active in the steam room and stuff. But people who are in there live each time, I would say it's 20 to 30. Luch, I mean, it gets pretty intimate. Lucci gets to know, especially if you participate and you get involved.
Yeah,
he gets to know you. He gets to know what your hang-ups are.
I think this time around, we'll literally have like 50 people in there. And again, like a lot of these people are people that are taking it again. So I know these people from years ago that are just doing refreshers and making sure they're on point. And plus, we drop different things in there every single time. So we're bringing our boy Ranchero here, who's bringing in his strategy, his way of looking at some of the option stuff, some more advanced option strategies as well. So we're starting to add in a lot of stuff. Plus, I go through development every single week, every single month. Like I figure shit out all the time, and I bring all that stuff to you guys. So a lot of the old folks, will come back, take the classes. So it gets very intimate in there because again, I need to make sure you guys come out of the class with the confidence. You know what I mean? That's what we do. We give you the confidence that you don't need anybody else. This is what we do. You don't need anybody else. You know what you need to do. And now it's just a question of, do you have the mental strength and the toughness to go about the pursuit here of what you're after? So that's where we do.
And Mark, yeah, you said so you can join again live later. Yeah, you can. You can come back as many times as you want, as many future sessions as you want. It's a lifetime access. And you can watch Lucci trade live. Yeah, the 4 live tape reading sessions are a big part of the course. You see exactly what he trades live. You see his screens. He's giving you the play-by-play of exactly what he's doing and why he's doing it. And that's how people used to learn how to do this too. They would sit behind a trader and they would watch their screens and they would ask them questions when they were not going to slap the shit out of them.
Speaking of slap the shit, we got Sonny here saying, does it make any difference if you lose 1 cent or 2 cents on the entry? So by that question alone, you need the course. Okay. So let's make sure you get your ass in there. Okay. So again, just by where you guys are at, I already know. I already know. Just by the type of questions you ask, I already know. So Sonny, you need to be smacked. You need the course here. Okay. So get to it, buddy. Get to it.
All right. All right. And then last thing, the gear. We're gonna start selling these on the site. So you guys are gonna get an email about how to get where to get the shirt. Yeah, we'll send an email about that. We gotta get the online store going and stuff. Right now it's kind of an insider.
Yeah, no, we're gonna. Yeah, the Sanglucci is gonna go through a little bit of some changes as well, the website, all this kind of stuff. So that's why you're seeing all this. That's why you're seeing me going out to do the meetups and meeting all of you guys as well. That's why you're seeing the playbook. So everything is gonna get a makeover so that you guys truly understand what it is that we do and how we can help you get there, how we can help you get to where you guys want to be as well. All right, so Be patient. We got it all coming.
All right, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free. You can email me directly, charlie@sanglucci.com. I'm happy to help. CHARLIE@sanglucci.com. Check out the playbook if you haven't already. It is definitely worth your time. And we will see you on Tuesday for the next law number 2. We will see you there. Learn the noise. We'll be breaking it down more in depth. Hope you guys have a great weekend.